Tell me when. So.
Okay, it's when. It's when. The little red button's on. You know what that means, don't you?
I'm scared, Tom. What do we do?
Actually, I think what it really means is that I'm not set to start the show like I'm supposed to. All right. The Annoying Peasant Radio Show. Check it out. Here we go.
Fire it up, Holmes!
Don't hang on to outdated imperialist dogma. Be free for the next episode of the Annoying Peasant Radio Show. And now, the Annoying Peasants.
That's my Warren, one of my few Warren intros. So welcome everybody to the Annoying Peasant Radio Show. We're again have our wacky intro and trying to get that under control. Thanks for joining us. How you doing tonight, Brad? Oh, maybe Brad's not with me any longer. Oh, well, let's see if we can get that under control, too. Sorry, everybody. Let's check him out. Yeah, no, he says he should be here. You're not there, Brad? Hello? All right, let me try to get Brad back, and we'll get this going. For some reason, I lost his audio, unless you're in there, Brad. Might as well get over here to my Skype. Let's see if I can. I'll try to get Brad back. Hang on, everybody. Sorry. Let's get back to that here. We never have a show where we don't have technical difficulties. But it never fails. Are you there, Brad?
I'm there, Brad.
Okay, I don't know what happened.
I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me.
Okay.
But that's good for everybody.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. That's really not. Anyway, I just sent you. Well, I guess you could hear. I did. Well, actually, you didn't get to hear the intro, right? You still can't hear that?
Nope.
Okay. Well, anyway, here's the point. That's done.
Well, welcome everybody to the Annoying Peasant Radio Show. We are very glad you joined us. My name is Brad, as we well know, and this is my good buddy Tom. And we might or might not be joined by another really smart dude, because I'm not very smart.
Oh, yeah.
Help out.
Nick Ludwig.
That's right. So we're gonna wait and see if we hear from him. We're flying by the seat of our pants as always. But tonight's episode, Tom, is entitled "The Republicrats and the State." That sounds provocative, Tom.
Well, it's intended to be.
Oh, what?
Yes. We're actually overall, a few friends that are big Republican supporters probably not going to be too happy with me this evening. But all I can tell them is if you're really not that happy with me this evening, don't worry about it. Because, again, we'll do another show, and it'll all be about bashing on the Democrats. And that'll make them very happy again.
See, here, Tom, is where I was cutting edge. Even before I knew you, I'd figured that part out.
Okay, well, good.
That the Republicrats were exactly that. That the two parties are very much the same.
Yes, that's the point.
That was before I got enlightened by you.
Yeah, I would argue you're just splitting hairs, and I know to most people, whether you're on the Republican side or the Democrat side, right? It's a chasm of a difference. It's huge. I get all that, but you just don't understand how huge it is. Yep. And I think by some of the things we go through this evening, I think people will get a better. I think hopefully, if they're open-minded and they're willing to really engage in a little dialogue and thinking, they'll come along and go, actually, maybe there isn't as big a difference as I thought. And if
boy, people really think there is. It's you're right, a chasm. It's throwing bricks across a Grand Canyon. Because
politics has become politics, I guess, not political philosophy. Politics is really, in my view, it's a sport.
sport and a popularity contest.
Absolutely, it is. Most people, I think, were raised in a household of Republicans or Democrats, right? And they were that's the way I am, and we'll get to some of that. There is some of that in the quotes that we have in here. And I was talking to another fellow earlier this week, and to me, again, our show is about the concept of justice, which I know sounds really boring to most people. They don't really care until you get into an entanglement, and then it starts mattering. And actually, justice doesn't really matter, at least initially. It's the legality or illegality of what someone did or you did or didn't do, right? But when it becomes determined by the court that something was, say, in fact, legal, but you felt cheated, now your curiosity of what justice is does matter. And when the state's rendering or decision differs with that, you say, well, that's unjust, right? And what I'm saying is I think it's worth everyone's while to understand what justice is and what its underpinnings are and its basis, its foundation, before you even really do anything. You ought to know. And it affects everything like we talk about on this show: foreign policy, economics, fiscal policy, everything. We go on forever with that. And that's why, another reason why I think it's so important. And that's obviously what we're driving at in this episode and really in every episode of the Annoying Peasant Radio Show. But thanks for joining us. So hopefully we'll get to a little bit of that for everyone, or we'll get an aha moment or something like that out of everyone listening. And that's what I guess we always look forward to.
We hope we make you think.
We hope
that you will, again, engage and listen to what Tom presents.
Well, this is kind of, this is the NPR. I would argue we're the NPR with... but we have a completely different, solution. And I hate to use that word, solution to the problem, because there's really never any solution in that sense of that word, kind of. It's just a way to avoid conflict. I just got a Facebook message, by the way, from Nick. Says he just got in and he's going to try to hook up with us here shortly. So we will have Nick.
Okay.
So we'll get through some of this stuff before Nick's going to contribute anyway. We'll get that out of the way, and then hopefully I'll get figured out how to add him to the Skype call. Let me go on with this. Most hold, I just want to give a basic backdrop of the show, a little, philosophical statement. Most hold that we put forth a radical political philosophy on the show, the political philosophy of freedom. So far, it probably doesn't sound too radical to most people. But many say that this is unworkable and unrealistic. Experience elucidates that a minimal state is a contradiction in terms, unsustainable, and inevitably leads to a maximal state. Check it out. Look at the example in which we live in. I assume most people are in the U.S. I know I have a couple people across the pond listening to us, but we'll have some fun with a number of these points tonight. So let's get a little deeper. The political philosophy of freedom asserts that everyone is free to pursue his or her own life interest, provided the pursuit is a peaceful one. Simply, it is unjust to initiate force against another, or you could say initiate violence. The initiation of violence is in principle different from defensive force, which is the use of force to resist aggressive force. But to determine if force is initiated, property rights must be established. Property rights, however, are not properly defined by fiat. In other words, a piece of paper, a constitution, right? Whatever someone else says it is. Property rights are established in the nature of man, and is that each person has an ownership right in him or herself. I think we talked a little about that last week with Tim as far as organs go. As such, one is entitled to the fruits of one's labor. That is, you have a legitimate claim to ownership of formerly unowned materials upon mixing your labor with them. Further, you have the right to exchange your property with any other, provided this is accomplished voluntarily. Legitimate title transfers are voluntary exchange, gifting or inheritance, gambling. These are all these legitimate title transfers. There's so much more, though. We could go on forever on this part when we want to move along. So just stick with us, gain the context from our conversation, and ask questions in the chat or on the Facebook page. And again, thanks for joining us. kind of appropriate to this, I try to do kind of a quote of the day. I have a couple of them today, but early on I wanted to do a Hans Hermann Hoppe, which is, the state is a monopoly of ultimate decision-making within a given territory with the power to tax. Another way he says it, an expropriating property protector is a contradiction in terms. And there's a lot in those quotes to really go on the internet and Google them and find them and look at them more deeply. But again, some of what we discuss here in this episode will shed some light on that. Just one little last thing before we get to Brad doing the announcement stuff. He says, on this episode, we're going to contemplate the outrageous rhetoric of the Republicans, as well as a sampling of the party's many contradictions and failures. Seeing as this is the unofficial, apparently, kickoff of the election cycle for the office of the presidency in 2016, we are obliged to have some fun pointing at the many contradictions of the Republican Party and the futility of reforming the current system. We will follow our discussion of an article by Lawrence Vance with some audio clips from George Carlin, and I just wanted to get this out here. Warning, the George Carlin audio clips contain, we'll call it, colorful language. So parents, consider if your children are prepared for this type of entertainment. And it will be entertaining. So stick with us. With that, I think we're ready to go on to the announcements, Brad.
Okay, thanks, Tom. So last week we had a great show, and we want to do a special shout-out to our friend Tim, a.k.a. the Texas father of 7, for leading the discussion last week on a free market for organs. And once again, at face value, I think if we were all ordained as we have been and led to believe that this cannot happen, and the only party that is worthy of making such rules about who gets what organ is the government, I thought last week's show was totally enlightening and very well thought out. And we encourage you to check out that show in the archives if you did not catch it live. I promise you it'll make you think.
Yes, I agree with that one. Great job, Tim, and we appreciate your efforts.
Absolutely. Terrific guy. Just a great friend of ours, and again, thank you very much. We look forward to talking to him again soon. So tonight's suggestion from Tom is to watch something called Justice, What's the Right Thing to Do? It's episode 11 in the Good Citizen from the Harvard Law School series by Michael Sandel.
Okay, hey, I'm going to break in because I'm going to try to add Nick here, so we'll see. But so, hey, Nick, are you there?
I am.
Cool. Thanks for joining us this evening. And I'm sorry, I'm sure you are a busy man and you're a little bit rushed.
I am rushed. I just got, I was sitting there with my boss at work and going, I got to get the hell out of here. So finally, they let me go. But sorry I'm late, but I'm here.
Cool. We're happy that you joined us. And hey, anytime a guy sits with his boss, the thought comes into your head, hey, I got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Brad was doing some announcements, so we'll let him continue, and then we're gonna get to you in just a sec, okay? Nick,
sure.
Hang on.
Thanks for joining us. Just a couple more things. Our next live show will be next Tuesday evening, Wednesday, May 19th at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And among the variety of issues that we may be discussing, we'll include an article by Austin Peterson entitled 5 Reasons Why I'm Not an Anarchist. Now you're shaking things up again, aren't you, Tom?
Yeah, I thought that was actually, it's hard to say good article, but a lot of things that I can poke at. That's, I guess, from that direction is why I thought it was a good article. And I think it probably raises a lot of questions that a lot of people have there that are maybe fence sitters. And so I think it'll be good, hopefully, for our audience. And one of the other things that I'm going to talk about, we got to do on one of these upcoming shows is, I just wrote this down by hand as we were going through the announcements, is we got to talk about drones. There's this gal, Marjorie Cohn. Nick, do you happen to know that name?
I do, because we're trying to start our own little drone air force here locally, and
there you go.
Yeah, and there's some interesting things going on, and I know that there's some. It's fun stuff. I think it's it's definitely something that we should get involved in.
Yeah, there's many interesting aspects to how the military uses the drones. And actually, when I say the military, if I remember correctly now, it's actually the military is not in charge of the drone program. I believe it's the NSA.
CIA.
Sorry, CIA.
CIA.
Yeah. Which,
Which that way, then when the drones kill somebody, it's like, well, what law is that about? Well, the CIA doesn't have any laws that apply to them, so they can kill whoever they want.
yeah, for any touchy question, you go and say, we can't answer that question.
That's right. Yeah, if you ask them whether it's legal for them to kill them, they say, well, you're not really. That's classified.
Right. So, and who did you kill? Well, that might also be classified. We can't discuss that either. Well, thanks. Is there anything you're up here to discuss?
So is your new drone fleet going to follow the police, follow the government people?
What, you mean follow them around?
Yeah, observe them.
We want to stay as far away from them as we can. What we want to use drones for is peaceful purposes, like delivering 6-packs of beer and, and other stuff and, fun stuff.
Yeah.
I was kidding about, they're watching us. I thought you might want to watch them, Nick.
Well, we should.
Yeah, we should watch them. From a distance. Because you get too close, they're going to shoot you.
They're going to they'll tase them.
Yeah, well, if you're lucky,
they'll
tase you.
Yeah, if you're lucky, they'll just tase you. Usually, they just beat the living hell out of you, and then they don't let you have any medical care.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, so join us next week for that interesting topic and episode. And lastly, the chat room is open.
So, I got to see if anybody's in there right now. Usually, Tanya's the first one in there, but I haven't seen her yet. So, anyway, hey, Agorafest. I heard there's this little shindig.
Yes. You want me to talk about Agorafest?
Yeah, I think Brad's going to have some questions for you. I'll throw some in there too. But whatever you want to tell us about it first, we'll probably X off every question we had on the list here. But go for it.
Well, I think that, for those that don't know, maybe some of your listeners or people who listen later, this is Agorafest is a Minnesota based festival for liberty-loving people. I guess we would include libertarians, anarchists, agorists, voluntarists, and fellow travelers. Right? In other words, those people that are interested in those kinds of things would probably all enjoy this event. This will be our third year, and it's bigger and better, of course. Last year was bigger and better than the first year. This is even better. It's going to be September 24th through 27th of 2005.
15.
Pardon me?
2015, you meant. Sorry.
Yeah, 2015, yeah, sorry.
And I'm really relieved to hear you say 24th to the 27th, because I've been saying that for the last, 3-4 months, and it's good to know I got it right.
Right, 24th through 27th. And it's going to be at the place it has been the last couple of years, which is a really great location. It's Villa Maria Retreat and Conference Center in Frontenac, Minnesota, which is right on Lake Pepin, right on the Mississippi River. It's a beautiful old, it was an old Ursuline convent that is now a retreat and conference center. So it actually has lots of outdoor type of things to do, woods and meadows, and of course the river and hiking trails and so forth. Plus it has cabins and a kind of woodland lodge and just lots of things we can do there. So it's a great venue to put on this event, and so we're happy to be back there. And we're adding a day. The first 2 years it was basically Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going Thursday night, full day Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday morning. So we're stretching it out a little bit because it just seemed too cramped in previous years.
Yeah, I can believe it. And I can vouch for the just absolutely beautiful setting that is there. Brad and I were there last year, and it's just gorgeous. And we had just fantastic weather to boot.
Yeah, and we're hoping, we wanted to do it, or at least my vision always was, is to do it around the fall equinox. And last year we registered too late, and so we couldn't get the date we wanted, and so we ended up doing it in August, which is a little warmer.
Yep.
And but this will be back in September, where days should be warm but not hot, nights cool, great sleeping weather, great hanging out by the bonfire weather, and so I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'll be a great time of year, to do it as well.
Absolutely. So, tell us, Nick, a little bit about the idea of Agora Fest. Why do you do this, and what can I gain from going to it?
Okay, so the inspiration for it wasn't me, although I had, in the back of my mind, I thought, yeah, it'd be great to do some kind of a nice festival-like event, but really it came about because, as I think we've started these small groups several years ago that meet all around the Twin Cities and the metro area, and of course now there's some of them meeting other places. Where it looks like one might be starting in Hudson, Wisconsin, and I know that Duluth has a group that is doing their thing up there, and anyway, these groups, they're smaller, but they like to get together with each other and people that aren't in their necessarily their circle, and there's a lot of that cross kind of stuff going on anyway. People just, they will go to other people's groups, and that's great and fine. But anyway, so some of those people said, well, we should all get together once a year and have a big party, a big event. And I said, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. We should do that. And somebody should do that.
Yes.
Plan that. And so we decided to start thinking about it and planning it, and then we did it. So that's how it came about.
So what, again, Brad and I were there last year, but for our listeners, what happens at Agora Fest? Like, what kind of stuff goes on? Do I need to bring money?
You should bring some kind of, you should bring something to trade anyway. So Agora Fest, you can tell by the name that we tried to make it focused a little bit. I mean, it's really not. It's not so focused that it's actually. Again, remember, these are anarchists and libertarians. We're not that organized, right? So it's a party. It's a festival. It's a get together. But yes, my vision. I can tell you, really, this is probably the best way to do it, is tell you my vision, because I'm one person, and
right.
I'll tell you what the reason I go to Agora Fest is because yes, I love the people, but I want people to promote their skills, their talents, maybe things that they have made and that they like to sell, or skills and services that they like to offer. I'd like it to be a marketplace. And so the agora is, the Greek word for marketplace. And so I like it to be that, and I'd like it to be, sharing of those kinds of things and ideas. And maybe it's even easier to say what I don't want it to be, or what's not in my vision. What's not in my vision, I never really envision it to be a place where people go and listen to speakers and get lectured to all day, right?
Right.
Whether it's political speech or non-political speech. I think that's kind of boring to me, and so I don't really care for it. I like workshops. I like things where it's hands-on, where people can participate. I like those kinds of things. I like things where people invite other people to take part in it. And yeah, there has been some speeches and things, but it's interesting. The main speakifying type part of Agora Fest was put together by these young people in the cities that call it TED Talks, and kind of a spin on the TED Talks, but they're short little speeches. And so when they do have little lectures or speeches on a topic, they try to make them short, less than 10 minutes long, which I think is cool because that's about my attention span. That's pretty much it, is 10 minutes or less.
Well, I thought they were really good last year because, again, partly that they were very short and they were on different topics, so you could get a whole lot of information in a short amount of time. I thought that was actually quite interesting.
Yeah, I think so too, and so I like that. And so the kinds of things that we've, we're just encouraging people to go down a certain direction or maybe take a certain path. That doesn't mean that people do that, right? People have their own ideas and they decide to do other things. But this year, or so last year, we had a few things that I thought were kind of fun and unique, and we're going to do some of those again this year and then add other things. But last year we decided that was the first year we decided, look at any food or drink or anything that people need to eat or drink, if they're going to do it, they're going to have to provide it for each other. So we essentially had people decide to cook for each other or to provide some kind of something to eat or something to drink, and it worked out pretty well. So that basically everybody got fed and did just fine based on what people brought. And I'm sure there were a few people that ran to Red Wing or Lake City for a burger or something, but you didn't need to. There was plenty of food there and for anybody, and plenty of choices too. And so we're going to keep doing that, and I think that's great. And then some of the things that I've sort of been trying to do myself was, that we put in a mesh network last year, which was fun and actually useful because we have internet on the property, but only in the front area by the main hall. So what we did with our mesh network is that we extended the internet throughout the entire roughly 70-acre campus by putting up lots of little radios that are connected to each other. So we created our own little ad hoc mesh network, which was fun, and it worked. I mean, people were able to, out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the field, they were able to access the internet, and so that was a cool thing. So we're going to do that again, and probably even enhance a little bit more, try to add some more services and make it more useful.
Well, it was definitely useful because that's how we did our show from there last year. Right. So it worked great in my view.
Right.
I don't know about anybody else, but it worked great for me.
Yeah. So that was cool. I agree, and I think that was so that's an example of the kind of things that I'd like to see more of is very practical, hands-on things that you can show and tell, and that's why, of course, we're hoping to have the drone academy or the drone Air Force. I don't know what we're going to call it. We're trying to get the kids involved, right? So this is going to be something for the kids to learn about aerodynamics and aerospace. Actually, what we're eventually going to try to push even more, not just airplanes and choppers and things like that, but actually we're going to, we'll talk about getting beyond the atmosphere potentially in the future. But so an educational thing for the kids as well as fun, and then I hope we'll get some good aerial photos and video from the drones too, because it is a beautiful site, and I think it will look cool from a few hundred feet in the air. You can see the whole campus, and you can see the river, there, and so that I'm looking forward to doing that too.
Well, that stuff's right up my alley because my indoctrination at a state university was in aerospace engineering.
Yeah, cool.
So, anyway, awesome. Yeah, just so everybody, it's a great venue. There's a lot of cool stuff going. Hey, are we going to have beer this year again?
Beer. Well, there's. Yeah, I think Mark Johnson. I mean, he actually brews, or actually boiled it, did the whole
yes.
Brewing demonstration. I think he's going to do it again.
Okay.
And so we'll have that. And I should tell you that, by the way, so registration is open. If you go to agorafest.com, agorafest.com, you'll actually see all the options for registration. They're there. You can sign up today if you want. There's and I'm pleased to say that the pricing is actually less than last year. For the same basic options. Although the main hall is more because you're adding another day, right? But it's still cheaper per day than it was last year. The camping is a lot cheaper because we negotiated a deal with the venue, and so people that complained a little bit the camping was a little expensive. I think you'll find that camping is really reasonable, and even the day passes and event passes are cheaper. So we were able to even cut the price and still do more for less money. So I'm happy about that. And so, registration's open. We're soon going to be filling up the schedule with events and fun stuff, and there'll be more to come. There's lots of things in the works. I don't know if they'll all happen, but they are. There's lots of cool things that people are planning. And I hope they get it together, and so we'll see them there.
Oh well, just so you know, the Northwoods mom and her family are considering being there this year as well. So there's going to be some liveliness there, which
that's great.
There was last year, I know, but there will be some more maybe if the Thorns come.
Great. I mean, it's really family friendly. We actually have kind of an adult area in one of the cabins that's way back in the woods, but I'm trying to keep most of the kind of the heavy partying back there, and we're even looking like we'll probably have, since we had a lot of campers last year, but I'm sure we'll have a lot more this year. I'm probably going to set up a specific camping area just for families that has a quiet time on it, which we didn't do last year, but we probably will this year. Is that we'll make it so that that place is no talking, no shouting, no singing.
There you go.
After a certain time,
Sleepy time.
Yeah, sleepy time. So, but yeah, the kids. There's plenty for the kids to do. The nature stuff is amazing. Oh, I got to tell you this. You know this. This happened last year, and but there's so much wildlife around there that they're kind of tame. It's actually kind of crazy in a way, but you'll see like half a dozen deer in the backyard behind the main hall, and they're just hanging out there, and in fact, every year they during deer season, they have to try to cull them out a little bit because the deer are everywhere, and of course they attract other wildlife and animals. I know that Cara Schultz last year had a skunk come right into her tent and say hi and say, "Hey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
What's going on in your tent?" And Cara was like, "Get out of my tent." And so we got a lot of nice, wonderful wildlife for everybody to enjoy, and it is. It is a beautiful place.
Yeah, well, it's almost like the Villa Maria petting zoo.
Yeah, it almost is really. And
yeah,
and then by that time, the apple trees should have fruit on them, and there's apple trees that just loaded with fruit, and by September we should be able to just walk up to the trees and pick apples and eat them right off the tree.
Yeah, you're trying to make me hungry? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm hungry myself.
I know you mentioned the camping, and of course there's nearby hotels, but is there any other accommodations for anyone listening who might be interested in staying a night or two or more?
Yeah, so here's the options. On campus or at the event, the 70-acre area, you've got the front, the main convent, which is the old convent, which has got rooms that have air conditioning and heating. There isn't baths in every room, but the baths are just down the hall, about 20 feet or 10 feet, right?
Yep.
So with showers and everything else. So they're nice, and we've priced them so that they're actually, they're pretty darn cheap, particularly if you stay 3 days, and which we hope everybody will. If you're going to be there, you might as well hang out for the whole time. If you want to go a little more rustic, there are cabins. There's 2 cabins. One of them is a little fancier than the other, and but they all have, some of them have some private rooms within the cabin, and others are bunks. And then we have a bunkhouse, which is really just bunks. It's kind of like your old scouting bunkhouse, but we've priced them inexpensively. So if you if you just want a mattress, you don't want to pay a lot, that might be a good choice for you, you know. So you can do cabins as well, and then you can always tent camp, and then you can there's hotels and motels both in Red Wing, which is 8 miles away, and Lake City, which is about 5 miles away, and if you have an RV, some people like that. We don't have any facilities for RVs on site, but Frontenac State Park is right next to this facility, and they have facilities for RVs, plug-ins, as well as dumping stations and all that kind of thing. So we pretty well got it covered for whatever you want to do, either on campus or just right nearby.
Yes, that sounds fantastic. And again, it was last year. And of course, we've committed to being there again this year. We were there last year. So if you want to be live on the air with Annoying Peasant Radio Show, this is one of your many opportunities to do so. So anything else, Nick, that I didn't ask you that I should have to explain to people to encourage people to come to Agorafest?
Gosh, I don't know. I think that if you really like a real hands-on, not a real, maybe I should say this. If you're looking for a more formal thing with suit and tie and sit in a room and listen to speakers, this probably isn't your event. Okay,
right.
This is more like we would love to have everybody that comes participate in some way, either bring something to trade or bargain, come with a skill that you can show off and talk to people about, come and teach somebody something new. That's what I'm hoping that this event will be, is that kind of event. And not to say if you don't want to do that, you still can come, of course, but we're trying to encourage that. That's the stuff we're trying to encourage.
Okay, sounds good. And then please tell us again, how do we get in touch with you? How do we sign up?
So the website is it's agorafest.com, agorafest.com. We have a Facebook community called Agorafest that if you search on Facebook, you'll find it, and it'll point you back to the event, and it'll point you to the website, so you can find us through that. We actually have a Twitter account that will be updating more often now up through September, and yeah, if you want to talk to me personally, or you have any questions or something like that, probably the best way is to go to Facebook and find the Agorafest community, and post on there, and some, either me or somebody else, will get back to you right away.
Okay, cool. I think that's all I had for you at the moment, but if you would like to stick with us, you're welcome to do so. I know, again, you were rushed and you probably got other things to do too, so if you got to scoot, that's fine, but again,
I can hang out, and
okay.
You want me to you're going to cut me off and just want me to chat, or
No, we never would cut you off. Well, Brad's going to do some news items, and then we're going to move on to we're basically going to bash the Republicans. And, of course, the more bashers, the better. So we have no objections to you chiming in at any point in time.
Okay, I will then.
Okay, cool.
Just for my 2 cents worth on the festival, I would just say that it is a great bunch of very smart, nice, open-minded folks that are there for a very broad exchange of ideas and thoughts. And I just found the whole thing to be totally just as Nick is describing, with that sort of intention, and just that kind of people. You'd be welcome. Everybody would be welcome, no matter what their thoughts are and I promise you'll learn something talking to somebody there. It's a great time.
What was the fella's name who brewed the beer again?
Mark Johnson, who is award-winning, Minnesota State Fair champion or whatever brewer. I can't remember exactly, but he really knows his stuff, and he's brewed a lot of great beer, and he's done it for 2 years now, and he'll do it again. But he really knows. If you want to know how to brew beer, more than just stuff that you'll drink and maybe your buddies will drink. But if you want to brew something that really, really is outstanding quality, Mark can teach you that stuff. He knows a lot of the real intricacies about how to brew.
He does. And I have 2 points. Well, 1 point and one request. The point is, I think Mark was the most popular guy there last year.
Yeah, probably.
And my request is, we were near him last year. We'd like to be located near him again, if that's possible, because that was fun to watch.
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, well, actually, it was even good for our show because we caught people walking by all the time. It's like, hey, we're on there. You want to chat with us? So it worked really well. We got to have that foot traffic for us.
I'm sure we can arrange something.
Cool. Brad, you got anything else, or do we want to move on to the news items?
Get ready, Nick. I'm gonna ping you. I've got an idea of something I want to share.
Uh-oh.
Look out.
Look out. It won't hurt too bad, I don't think.
Okay.
No, about at the festival. I might want to participate a little bit more. So
cool. Yeah.
That'd be really cool. And thanks for joining us. That's awesome. It's a great event.
All right, cool.
So some news items for everybody. Redwood City Car Wash does the job with just 1 cup of water during the California drought. And we talked about the California drought, and Governor Brown and all the mandates that he's made. And so what's the nature of this story, Tom?
The nature of the story is, first of all, they claim they could do it with 1 cup of water, which was a little amazing to me. But the amazing part is you can see how producers, in this case of services, try to innovate. And I can't vouch for if they do a great job or they do a better job than traditional car washes or a hand wash or whatever. That I can't vouch for. But you can see that the market economy continues to innovate given whatever their circumstances are. They try to make do and make things better. And this just, to me, is another example of it. The only other caveat I had there was that they admit that they used more water with quote-unquote dirty cars. So I don't know exactly what that meant. But I just thought that was interesting. That, no kidding, a cup of water? I thought that was pretty cool.
So just playing devil's advocate, would these people not have innovated if the government hadn't taken such a strong stand, Tom?
I'm saying they would have probably I don't know if they would have gone to 1 cup, but they probably would have been more innovative if the price of water were able to float, as a free market price, sure. Which would have years ago, I assume, signaled that scarcity is here and potentially for a longer time. So seek alternatives, conserve, all those things. But since I would lay a lot of that waste of the water at the hands of the municipalities and the state and I don't know, whatever water boards and all the bureaucracy that exists there, it's too long to list in a 2-hour show. But I'm saying they ultimately are at least in part to blame, if not in major part. Carly Fiorina, hey, one of the Republicans that we're going to touch on her a little bit here in a bit, has said that, hey, the problem lies at least at the hands of the state. They're in control of the water. Why didn't they create a larger reservoir? Why didn't they encourage conservation and reuse and all these things earlier? Well, obviously we know they're just not set up to do that kind of stuff. The market is what gives the better information more quickly. So that was my little twist on that news story. And of course, since we had just covered the water, I don't know, 2-3 shows back, I thought that was a bit of a continuation of that.
Agreed. So the next news story is a new one. Tom is going to touch on Carly Fiorina a little bit. Wow.
Hey, actually, she's a very beautiful woman. Thank you very much.
Okay, so in a related story, incidents of water theft are up in California.
Yeah, I read a couple stories about that. I thought that was interesting. Again, consumers gaining the understanding that, hey, this here's become scarce. Let's steal it. Whereas, probably, and I don't even, to be honest, I don't really know how a fire hydrant works. Do you have to have some kind of key to gain access to those? There was a number of stories saying people had, I don't know if you have to use a key or something. Somehow they shanghaied them and they filled trucks. I assume tanker trucks. I don't know if you can carry really the water effectively in another way. But there's been an uptick, I guess, in these terrible crimes of people taking water from a number of places, canals too, and other things. And apparently, some guys have figured out how to, like when they put in a new development, I assume right away they claim a water meter or a metering device is not placed on it immediately, so they get as much water as they can then. And others have figured out how to tap before the meter. So all this stuff is happening more frequently there because of the scarcity of water.
So could that also not have happened if we had that that for free water like that?
Yeah, it may have. There may have been an uptick on property rights violations earlier if the price had gone up higher. Again, they're property rights violations as I see them, and those people would be subject to prosecution. And I would say in a free society, they would likely pay a much higher price. So they would be faced with being dissuaded more. I think, and again, I read in a couple different places, I think some fines were like $50 for stealing water. They're talking about upping them to, I don't know, $250 or $500. In a free society, I think you'd have to repay the water. It'd be one of the things I think someone would demand. Now, I don't know if they'd get it. It'd have to be in front of an impartial court or impartial third party to help determine that. But, hey, if you stole my chickens and I figured out it was you, I'd want my chickens back. So if you stole my water, I'd want my water back, among other things. But, at least as a starting point, I'd want my stuff back. So I could see that happening. And so now, what's the big advantage? Unless, of course, you don't get caught. It's like bank robberies. There's a big advantage to the bank robbers to steal your money or steal the bank's money. But the problem is they can get caught, and the price is very high. So if you do a good job of catching these criminals or dissuading them in the first place, I think property rights are better protected in that situation than they are now. But anyway.
Anything to add on that, Nick?
Well, gosh, California, talk about a messed up water rights, I mean, it's hard to even imagine, isn't it, what a free market in water would look like in California. Since the whole thing was a criminal, water rights were almost from the beginning in California, at least from the time that we kicked the Spaniards out. It's been a politicized mess, I remember that Jack Nicholson movie, Chinatown, right?
Yep.
What a great movie about water in California. So you're right. If people had to pay what water really costs in California, since California is a desert, and really wasn't hard to imagine that many people actually living in California and getting their water somehow through some market instead of stealing, the Colorado River. But it could be done, right? Because the other parts of the world do it. Desalination plants, there's lots of ways. There's lots of water on the planet.
Right.
It's just getting it to the people that want it and are willing to pay for it. So it could be done, but it certainly would look a free market of water in California would certainly look a lot different than what it looks like now.
No doubt. In this current situation, the state of California and all those crazy bureaucracies that can't even tell you the names of all of them are in charge of this. And, I understand just from what the little I've been reading, a number of dams have been deconstructed or destroyed because of environmental concerns. Environmentalists have done a nice job of persuading the state to do what they want done. with the population increase, you don't see this big increase in the reservoirs and the delivery systems.
Right.
Who's in charge of that infrastructure? It's a state, and so it's people look at it. It's that bias towards the state. It's like when people go to the Apple is going to release the next iPhone, and they stand in line, and Apple runs out of iPhones. They blame Apple and say they didn't have enough supply. But when you get on the freeway and you're stuck in traffic, you don't have the same argument. You don't say, well, there's not enough lanes, there's not enough roads, right? You say there's too many cars.
Right.
Now it's the marketplace is to blame, not the supplier. When it always comes to the state, it's never the state's fault. And I think most people have that built in their heads. They don't realize that's what they're actually doing, but they do it when it comes to a more or less sort of kind of free market organization. They blame them that they didn't have supply in line with demand, but they never blame the state for having supply in line with the demand. That's just the way it is.
Well, yeah, most people don't think like entrepreneurs, do they? And we're thank God some people do. Where they're the ones that actually look at it like they're supposed to. They look at it and they say, "I see a market opportunity here."
Yes.
But yeah, most people unfortunately don't think that way. We hope that more will. We hope that we can train up and help teach more people to think like entrepreneurs.
Absolutely, that would be great. I'm gonna move on. Another story. Actually, I think it was a Yahoo deal. Some guy, Matt, I think his name is Bai. He's the national political columnist for Yahoo. On May 9th, he did an interview of Obama, and the center of the discussion really was on how he was disagreeing with Elizabeth Warren on this trade deal that actually was sunk today. And when I say sunk, it's never sunk. They just resurrect it in new form with new language, and eventually they push their statism through. I mean, it happens because that's the way things are at the moment. But I just thought the comments that Obama had made during that interview were quite interesting. I think the discussion was about Elizabeth Warren's objection to the whole. I think it was essentially that Obama gets additional powers to make the trade deals, and Congress can't, change them or anything. So it's basically, he's the emperor and he can do what he wants. And Warren was saying no, because he could undo some of the legislation, either knowingly or unknowingly, that we did to put, in her view, Wall Street in check, right? So she didn't want that at risk. And so Obama just said, and I just thought some of this was kind of humor, he said, "I'd have to be pretty stupid," he said, laughing. "This is pure speculation. She and I both taught law school, and one of the things you do as a law professor is you spin out hypotheticals, and that is all hypothetical speculative." Now notice, and hey, I'm not a fan of either one, by no stretch. But I just think it's funny that he's basically disputing her argument without really saying anything in his own defense that's substantive, right? He just says she's doing pure speculation, and I'm not stupid, right? But he says he wasn't through in this thing. Or what did he say? He said Warren had populist convictions, and that she had a personal brand that she was trying to promote as well. So, and then he goes on to say, "The truth of the matter is that Elizabeth is, a politician like everybody else." Well, actually not everybody. Okay, maybe in his circle, he may be right on that. But there's other people on this planet that are actually not politicians. So I just that was a little public service announcement for Obama. But he says, and she's got a voice that she wants to get out there, and I understand that. And on most issues, she and I deeply agree. On this one, though, her arguments don't stand the test of fact and scrutiny. Again, he's coming up against her without anything of any substance. Again, I'm not saying either one is right or wrong. They're probably both wrong. More than likely. Again, I'm saying that because I don't know the specific facts of the whole deal, and I'm not really that interested in it, so that's why I don't know. But I just thought it was funny. He's basically, part of the way he sort of discounted her is by calling her a politician. So, Then to go on something more controversial, because I guess I'm attracted to that kind of thing. The meme. I don't know if you saw this one, Nick. The meme with Darth Vader and the stormtroopers. Did you see it? And I got a quote here, and I don't think I just did it from memory, so I might not have it. The verbiage on there said, "Although I disagree with the policies of Darth Vader, I support the stormtroopers."
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, I actually like that one. Well, part because I'm a Star Wars fan. But that's the part. It's so politically accepted to support the troops, even if you don't like. When I say, I don't think most people really think about if a war is just or unjust. They just, if I'm an Obama fan and Obama took us to war, it's a good war. I mean, we should be there. If I'm Obama fan and I know it doesn't make any sense, but if Bush took us to war, well, then I'm not for the war. It's wrong, right? I think that's where most people are. So they don't really think about it. And again, for I think most freedom supporters, it's, well, wait a minute. There is something called just war theory, and if this is an unjust war, I can't support the policy nor the soldiers carrying out that policy. And I used the more extreme example that I get jumped all over. But so if that's the case, in World War II, you got a severe problem with Adolf Hitler and his policies, but you don't have any problem with any of the other guys, right? Because they're just doing their job like the troops. Well, then there was this little party called the Nuremberg trial, I think, and I think there was more to it than, if I remember right, Hitler wasn't there. I think he was otherwise.
Hitler by that time was already in Argentina.
That's right. There's some interesting stuff actually to read about that, but yeah, but the mainstream story for sure is that Hitler already ate what was it, cyanide?
I think it was cyanide.
Cyanide was supposedly the deal, right? And because the way one of the many things, because you can listen to 1,000 different accounts of history, is that he didn't want to go through all that. He didn't want to be, I think, go through the same kind of crap that Mussolini went through. I think that was one of the. Again, you could check 50 different sources and get 50 different reasons, but I thought that one was kind of interesting. But that's so my. I know that's very controversial. But think about the Vietnam War. My question is really, what was the trouble with the Vietnam War for most people? Was it the perceived or real, lack of appreciation for the soldiers' efforts? Is that what the problem was there? Or was it the fact that Vietnam may have been considered by many as an unjust war? And then, of course, all the atrocities that happened over there. And the only caveat I got to say, I know most people would say if you point to atrocities that the U.S. engaged in or initiated, they usually say, well, the other side, it's not like those fellows were angels either. And, of course, I can't deny that. But the only thing that I think is not deniable in that case is that the United States military was, in fact, on foreign soil at that point. And I think that does change things when people are attempting to defend their home or their homeland. It's like, what are you doing here? You obviously, you're a foreign invader. You're considered a foreign invader by the people whose home it is. So,
yeah, that's right. Even though, of course, the modern little justification that all quote unquote democracies use is that they always either pick. They form a government, they create a puppet government that they can support, which gives them legitimacy, and that way the people, if they're fight against you, they're fighting against a legitimate government, so that makes them, terrorists, and that makes them illegitimate because they're fighting against this puppet government you set up. Or, they'll pick, if there's already government there that they like, then they'll co-opt that government and say, yeah, this is the legitimate government, and so if you fight against them, you're the bad guy. So that's the way they legitimize it, is by saying that, well, we're not invading you. We were invited in by the legitimate government of this country,
Right. Yes. It's amazing how things get twisted. In this vein, I just wanted to read. This was an article from Lawrence Vance, who we're actually going to talk about in the main part of the show. But he did an article, I think it was actually today, it was What Should We Be Saying to Veterans? And I just wanted to read, I don't know, a sentence or two quote from him. And he's talking about the emails that he gets on this account and, about criticizing the troops. And his thing said, let's see, yeah, this is people who email him who defend the troops. He says, invading and occupying Iraq, maiming and killing Iraqis, making widows and orphans, making people homeless and refugees, and bombing and destroying Iraqi infrastructure, although U.S. troops did it to a great degree, did it unjustly, and did it unnecessarily, is not their fault. It is all the fault of the president, the Congress, the politicians, the Joint Chiefs, the generals, anyone but the troops who actually did the dirty work. That's one of the criticisms or one of the responses he gets when he says that. And again, when I saw that again, I just had to think of the Darth Vader meme that's going around because I'm like, really? Okay. And you can easily make the argument, hey, blame falls to all of them. And to what degree, I guess that's a whole long discussion or a big argument there. But certainly blame falls to all of them in my view.
It's you can't, particularly with a volunteer army, you have nothing that you can defend. The troops have nothing to defend themselves with. If they commit atrocities, if they commit crimes against humanity, then they are as guilty as anybody because they decided they wanted to be there. They wanted to fight. If you have a draft, you at least have some. You could say, well, look, they enslaved me and forced me at gunpoint to fight.
Right.
And you might have somewhat of an argument, both legal and moral argument. But in a volunteer force, hey, guess what? If you didn't want to kill women and children, you wouldn't have joined up. That's what I tell them.
Well, it's a tough thing if you think about the whole idea of, I don't know, enlisting or joining the armed forces. You sign on the dotted line, and you don't really know what, an enlistment, I think a typical enlistment is 4 years. You don't really know what you're signing up for, because if you happen to be in peacetime, which I guess that almost never happens in the modern state here, but as something that's seen as peacetime, let's say, and you sign up, you don't know what conflicts are going to come up. You don't know what you could possibly get into. That seems crazy to just sign up and, basically you own me until my term is up.
Oh, the only reason I joined is because I want to get that college education.
Right.
And they told me I'd get the free college education, so of course I signed up. And I didn't think I would actually be killing women and children. That wasn't part of the deal.
Right. Well, that's such a huge topic. It's actually I think it's a very interesting topic, all the stuff there. And it, again, ties back into, we need to really talk about drones here in a near-term show, because I think there's quite a lot of interesting ethical issues involved that I think most people don't really consider. So I think the big thing about drones is, I think they actually still have, at least on the polls I see, and I'm not saying any one of them is accurate, but polls that are floating around, let's say, they have a fair amount of support from the public still. And I think if we have this, Brad and I will have this discussion, and the public favoritism will go away. That's the profound effect that we have on society today.
That's awesome.
Yeah, not even close. I got that profound effect on maybe a half a person.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Go do it. You guys are needed. In the world.
Yeah. So now we got to move along to another article by Lawrence Vance. And if I remember, that was exactly a week ago. This was put out on LouRockwell.com. And it's entitled "Proud to be a Republican" with a question mark at the end. And I guess, it's really pointing to, if you're a Republican, why would you be proud to proclaim such a thing? And he lists all his reasons. So I was going to trade back and forth here with Brad as we go through this. And his first one, he says, the Republican Party is the party of Lincoln. And I know to most hey, that sounds great. Why would you? What's the problem there? But, he issued a proclamation that freed actually 0 slaves. And this is from Wikipedia. So I know people don't, my detractors will say that's not true. The Emancipation Proclamation did not compensate owners, did not outlaw slavery, and did not grant citizenship to the ex-slaves. They were actually called freedmen at the time. It made the eradication of slavery an explicit war goal in addition to the goal of reuniting the Union. So it actually freed no one. So I thought that was interesting. He destroyed the country to save the Union. And again, the big supporters of Lincoln will know he didn't. He preserved the Union. He saved the country. What is it? I can't remember. 500, 800,000 Americans were killed in that war. I could be off by order of magnitude. I can't remember exactly. But, right, all these people, he started a civil war within the country.
Yes, about 750,000 people, from 500,000 to 750,000 people.
Oh, unbelievable! Just such as all war is, but unbelievably brutal. He presided over the first income tax. So all those people who are real happy on April 15th, you can thank your buddy, in part at least, Abraham Lincoln. He supported an amendment to the Constitution that would have prohibited the federal government from ever interfering with Southern slavery. Some of this stuff I didn't know. He shut down Northern opposition newspapers and imprisoned Northern political dissenters. Oh, yeah, here it says here, according to him, he says oversaw the deaths of 500 to 800,000 Americans. He destroyed the system of states' rights and federalism created by the Founding Fathers. Why would anybody be proud to be a Republican? So I'll let Brad do the next one. You're there with us, Brad, right?
I am. So the Republican Party is the party of the drug war. Republicans show their contempt for the Constitution by their ardent support of the unconstitutional drug war that has ruined more lives than drugs themselves. And we've talked about the drug war. That was one of the first things that actually Tom kind of helped me to begin to see the light on. Is it working? Are drugs any less prevalent or available than they were after the who knows how many billions of dollars or more that have been spent on the war on drugs? And now we're all watching, certainly for marijuana, those laws unravel before our very eyes.
Yep.
Quite an interesting thing. The Republicans are the greatest advocates of locking up people in cages for possessing substances the government doesn't approve of. Why would anyone be proud to be Republican? Yeah,
it's to Nick's point about conscription earlier. Is how do you make an innocent person a criminal? Well, you just pass a law that makes that says what they did is illegal. And that's a lot of these drug dealers. Now, they're probably wouldn't be a personal favorite of mine, but I'm saying they're not engaging in truly illegal activity. I realize the laws of the land now say it's illegal, but it's a voluntary transaction. Anyway, the Republican Party is the party of the warfare state. Closing a domestic military base is implausible. Scrapping a weapons system is out of the question. Cutting the bloated defense budget is inconceivable. Invading and occupying other countries is viewed as defensive warfare. Bombing, maiming, and killing whomever the government labels as the enemy is viewed as defending our freedoms. Why would anyone be proud to be a Republican?
There is no reason to be proud to be a Republican.
The Republican Party is the party of the empire. Republicans support the stationing of troops and maintaining of foreign military bases all over the globe, including Germany, Italy, and Japan, even through World War II, even though World War II ended 70 years ago. Closing an overseas military base is unthinkable. Bringing all of the troops home is unimaginable. Why would anyone be proud to be Republican?
The Republican Party is the party of the welfare state. See, everybody thinks Democrats own this one. He says, Lawrence Vance says, Republicans are welfare statists just like Democrats. They believe that it is the proper role of government to provide public assistance, have entitlement programs, maintain a safety net, and guarantee income security. They continually support food stamps, WIC. I don't even know what TANF is. I don't know what that program is, TANF. Federal job training programs, rent subsidies, heating assistance, farm programs, Social Security insurance, and which is not insurance anyway, and refundable tax credits that allow some Americans to receive tax refunds when they paid no taxes to begin with. They support the government providing unemployment benefits so that those who work can support those who don't. They have no philosophical objection to the government fighting poverty by taking money from some Americans and redistributing it to others. When Bush, the president, when I got something screwed up here, when Bush was the president and he had a Republican majority in both houses of Congress for over 4 years, the Republicans could have eliminated or substantially rolled back the welfare state. They did neither. Why would anybody be proud to be a Republican?
There is no reason why anybody should be proud to be a Republican. Should I do this after each paragraph?
Yes, you should.
There is no reason to be why you should be proud to be a Republican.
Everybody has a role on the show, Nick. That's yours.
Yeah. TNF, that's food stamps.
Oh, it is? Okay. I did not know that. Thank you.
So the next one, the Republican Party is the party of Social Security. Although Republicans may criticize FDR and many of his New Deal programs, they love his Social Security program and want to, quote, save it for future generations of young people that can support the elderly via an intergenerational income transfer, wealth distribution, welfare scheme. Why would anyone be proud? Sorry, Nick, I took your job. Why would anyone be proud of the Republican Party?
No, you did it right. You have to answer the question and then my answer.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's the Greek chorus. We answer and say, there is no reason why anybody should be proud to be a Republican.
All right, thanks for
Cool.
getting me up there.
See, that's my cue to move on. The Republican Party is the party of socialized medicine. Although Republicans rail against Obamacare, they are silent about their passage of the Medicare Prescription Drug Improvement and Modernization Act of 2003, the greatest expansion of Medicare since LBJ. Like Social Security, the Republicans are some of the greatest champions of saving Medicare. And just because they criticize Obamacare doesn't mean that they favor a real free market in health care. The total separation of medicine from the state, the complete deregulation of the health insurance industry, or the establishment of medical freedom. Republicans believe that some Americans should pay for the health care of other Americans. Why, Nick, I ask, would anybody be proud to be a Republican?
Nobody should be proud to be a Republican.
Well done. The Republican Party is a party of the foreign aid. Republicans have no philosophical objection whatsoever to taking money from American taxpayers and giving it to corrupt foreign regimes, including bribing them with cash and military equipment to get them to obey U.S. dictates. Spending on foreign aid practically doubled during the Bush years. So, Nick, why would anyone be proud to be Republican?
I don't know. Nobody should be proud to be a Republican.
The Republican Party is the party of federal control of education. The Democrats may have given us Common Core, but the Republicans gave us No Child Left Behind. We're going to hear a little bit about that from George Carlin here in a sec. Republicans support the federal student loan program, Pell Grants, the National School Lunch Program, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and Head Start. And instead of eliminating the Federal Department of Education, when they had a majority in both houses of Congress for over 4 years during the Bush presidency, they practically doubled the department's budget. Republicans believe that some Americans should pay for the education of the children of other Americans. Why would anyone be proud to be a Republican?
Nobody should be proud to be a Republican.
The Republican Party is the party of an aggressive, belligerent, and meddling interventionist foreign policy. Republicans believe that the United States should be a busybody who polices the world and tells every other country what it should and shouldn't do. Republicans fully support CIA, covert activities, and torture as long as the American people don't find out about it. And even when they do, they're not able to explain it, and they're above the law. So why would anyone be proud to be Republican?
You know, you got to be out of your freaking mind. You're proud to be a Republican.
That's pretty good. The Republican Party is the party of taxes. I have so many people, acquaintances we'll call them, that are say, no, the Republican Party is going to save us money. They're going to reduce taxes. Tax reform is unacceptable unless it is revenue neutral. How many times have I heard politicians say that? It has to be revenue neutral. Tax deductions, credits, and loopholes that allow some Americans to keep more of their money should be eliminated. The rich should pay their fair share via a progressive tax system. The government is entitled to a portion of every American's income. Why would anyone be proud to be a Republican?
I don't know. Nobody should be proud to be a Republican.
The Republican Party is the party of the national security state. Republicans gave us the Department of Homeland Security when we already had a Defense Department. Republicans gave us the Patriot Act to violate our liberties. Republicans gave us the TSA to grope us when we travel.
That's your personal favorite, Brad.
It is. Republicans support a CIA that spies on the whole world and works mischief throughout. Why would anyone be proud to be Republican?
I have no freaking clue why anybody would be proud to be a Republican.
Ask Edward Snowden on that one, I think. The Republican Party is the party of... Oh, this is the last one, by the way, Nick. You only have to do this one more time. The Republican Party is the party of massive government spending and debt. The national debt rose almost, get this, $1 trillion. That's with a TR. $1 trillion between the Republican Revolution that wasn't in 1995. See, it was the revolution that wasn't, not that it wasn't in 1995. And Bush's first inauguration in 2001. During Bush's presidency, government spending skyrocketed. The national debt almost doubled, and the federal deficit exceeded $1 trillion for the first time. Republicans in Congress regularly vote to raise the debt limit under Republican presidents. They have no philosophical objection to spending billions of taxpayer dollars on thousands of departments, agencies, grants, and programs that are not warranted by the Constitution. Why, on God's green earth, would anyone be proud to be a Republican?
Only a fool would be proud to be a Republican.
Yeah, very good. Very nice. All right. Now, we want to... Nick's been providing us with all kinds of levity, and we want to add a little more here if I get to the right spot here. We got some George Carlin cuts. Oh, before I do that, I got to call Brad so you can hear the cuts. Sorry. Oh, so, hey, pen some music or something right now while I'm very busy right now, Brad. Idle chit-chat, please, something. Yeah.
Hey, Nick, why would anyone want to be Republican?
Yeah, you got me.
So, Nick, you're a big Republican, right?
You know, I have to admit, I became a Republican for a few years, much to my dismay, and it was all, I blame Ron Paul. When I joined the Republican Party and I went to my first caucus, I told them that the only reason I'm here is because Ron Paul made me come to this caucus. I actually said that, and they all laughed, and they still voted me as a delegate, which is even more hilarious. And then when I ran for my first office as a actual party official, I told them that I was an anarchist and that I hate politics and I hate the Republican Party, and they actually elected me as chair of the Minneapolis Republicans. So honesty sometimes doesn't work the way you expect it would. You know, it just doesn't seem to work sometimes the way you would think it would work.
Right. Interesting. All right. I'm saying I'm going to do 4 George Carlin cuts. I think there's 4 of them. Here's the one he says, I think we're not ready for peace. So I'm hoping everybody gets a little chuckle out of this. So here we go.
You know what's interesting about assassination? Well, not only does it change those popularity polls in a big fucking hurry, but it's also interesting to notice who it is we assassinate. Do you ever notice who it is? Stop to think of who it is we kill. It's always people who've told us to live together in harmony and try to love one another. Jesus, Gandhi, Lincoln, John Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, John Lennon. They all said, try to live together peacefully. Bam! Right in the fucking head. Apparently, we're not ready for that.
All right, I don't know. Did you get to hear that, Brad? Yeah, I think it's reverberating through here.
I did not.
Okay, sorry, you missed that one. He was just saying that, hey, why is it the people we always kill in a big way are the guys like Gandhi, et cetera, who are big proponents of peace? And he says apparently we're not really ready for that. And I would agree with him that our society is actually not ready for it because, as we said this before many times on the show, when advocating violence through a third party, and in almost every case this is in this country, it's done through the state, we don't see it as violence. We don't see it as property rights violations. When you get an intermediary to do it, it's like, hey, I didn't do it. It's not me. And then, not the whole world is fair. Not everything is fair, so don't worry about it. Well, when it happens to you, all of a sudden fairness seems to matter. When it's being perpetrated on someone else, it's really not that big of a deal, is I think how a lot of people look at it. I don't know how I can get this to you guys on the fly quickly.
I know how to do it. I'll mute my Skype and then I'll listen in on the channel.
Okay. Oh, there you go. That's the way. I'm delaying here all right, I should be pretty close. This one here, he's going to talk about the idea of voting and that freedoms are gone and of course a little more. This is, what am I going to do? Oh, like a minute. So here we go.
It's assholes, fuck-ups, scumbags, jerk-offs, and dipshits. And they all vote. They all vote. In fact, sometimes you get the impression they're the only ones who vote. You can usually tell who's been doing the voting by looking at the fucking election returns. Man, it sure ain't me out there wasting my time with a meaningless activity like that. You know those people on the Jerry Springer show? Those are the average Americans. Oh, yeah, believe me, below average can't get on the show. Can't get on. Below average are sitting home watching that shit on TV. Getting ready to go out and vote. Filling out their sample ballot. People are fucking dumb. You can say what you want about this country, and I love this place. I love the freedoms we used to have. I love it. I love that. I love it when it didn't take a fucking catastrophe to get us to care for one another. I love the fact that we're on camera all the time from all angles. But you know what? You can say what you want about America. And I say I love this place. I wouldn't have it any other way. Wouldn't live in any other time in history in any other place. But say what you want about America, land of the...
All right, so he was talking about voting and the freedoms that are lost, and this is a sentiment that actually Brad and I have shared on this show many times before, saying, hey, just because we criticize the state, and I know most people are very touchy about that, but you criticize state, that doesn't mean I would want to live anywhere else or any other time, and George Carlin just basically said that. And I'm doing this mostly for Brad so he can know what we were talking about. But, there's a lot of truth to what he has to say. Obviously, that's why I'm putting it on the show. I guess I can't ask Brad, but did I miss something in that, Nick, or did you get to hear it?
Yeah, I got it. There's a like, what is there, like about a 30-second delay on the thing?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Now I'm moving on to, I'm doing this all manually, so that takes me so long. 34, whoops. 30, let's see, what's he talking about here? Let me see. Education. And the USA. And I think he makes a great point here. And again, I'm using the word education like most people use the word education. It's, I guess you're sitting in that chair and you're listening to this man or woman speak to you for, an hour, and then the bell rings and then you move on to the next place. I don't know if that's really education, but that's what we call it in this country. So here we go. Here's George Carlin talking about education, or the state of education in the United States. There's only a 30-second job, 34-second cut, I believe.
But if you talk to one of them about this, if you isolate one of them, you sit them down rationally, you talk to them about the low IQs and the dumb behavior and the bad decisions, right away they start talking about education. That's the big answer to everything. Education. They say we need more money for education. We need more books, more teachers, more classrooms, more schools. We need more testing for the kids. You say to them, well, we've tried all of that, and the kids still can't pass the test. They say, don't you worry about that. We're going to lower the passing grades. That's what they do in a lot of these schools now. They lower the passing grades so more kids can pass. More kids pass, the school looks good, everybody's happy, the IQ of the country slips another 2 or 3 points, and pretty soon all you'll need to get into college is a fucking pencil.
So I know Nick's probably still listening to this, but I just think it's interesting, and he talks about, what's happening to the educational standards and that they continue to lower the standards so that more kids can pass the exams, of course, or they just make the exams easier to handle. And it's evidenced by, and again, I can't tell you if these surveys are accurate or it's just the data that, is commonly floating around saying that, the United States or students in the United States continue to fall lower and lower in the world ranking. Is that absolutely true? I can't tell you. And is there more to knowledge and that kind of thing than just a test? Absolutely there is. But the situation we're in, I think it probably doesn't look great for where we are. This last cut is like, 3 minutes. So it's a little longer cut. And this is where he talks about really the state. He calls it the corrupt club. And he has a lot of fun with him here. So that's why I'm playing this part here. This is the last cut we're going to do of George Carlin. So enjoy.
Countries graduate more scientists than we do. Education. Politicians know that word. They use it on you. Politicians have traditionally hidden behind 3 things: the flag, the Bible, and children. No child left behind. No child left behind. Oh, really? Well, it wasn't long ago you were talking about giving kids a head start. Head start? Left behind? Someone's losing fucking ground here. But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table to figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people. White collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on. The fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Anyway, he talked about a whole lot of things in that thing, but, he started with education there. And he basically says, hey, be happy with the educational system we have because it won't be fixed. He said, my view on it being, he's saying, hey, reform will not work. And I know most people who are, most people are supporters of the system, believe, you have to, rally enough troops and you have to vote in the way to create the situation that you want or a better situation. But I don't believe that reform is an option here because, as Carlin said, the system is rigged. It's a big club, and you and I are not in it. And it's not in their interest to have people who are well-educated, critical thinkers, right? You might question the system. Well, that's, what Tom Woods on his podcast says, outside allowable opinion or something like that. And that's because they really don't like you thinking about it. They don't like what we're doing on this show, I'm sure. Think about the big picture. Think about the system. Think about how that you were trapped in it. And it's by voting and affirming the system and, perpetuating it is what I think you wind up doing by voting is not in your interest. It's not going to help you. And everyone needs to make that decision on their own, to be sure. But I just thought that was a real viable point that he made in that segment. Did I miss something there, Nick? Is there something I should have added?
No, I think you got it. I think that Carlin, it was his last big show, and obviously he kind of probably knew he was getting a little, he might be, on his last, he didn't live much longer after that show. I think he died soon after, and, it was talk about an honest, Carlin's always known to be honest, but I think he even just he didn't hold back at all. He just said, "This is what really is going on." And so, if you, if it was as much of a deathbed speech as you can hope for,
yeah,
from an incredible comedian, and
I for a couple things, I was amazed, like on that last clip, how. He didn't seem to have many people yelling at him while he was going through that rant, and I would assume that a lot of what he said, people, I don't know if this is right. I was going to say that people would disagree with it, but I do think criticizing the state is definitely a little out of bounds for most people, and he didn't seem to get much pushback there. And I think in part, I think obviously a very skilled comedian. And he got the people, I think, on his side because they enjoy his comedy, so he could kind of say anything. And I think he also, I'm with you totally, he got to the point in his career that he didn't care what anybody else thought anymore. He wanted to say his piece, and I think he really did that. Well,
Carlin, people that go to see Carlin, I mean, they generally are not the kind of people that really give a shit about the state anyway, most of them, although they may not be as quite as out there as we are in some ways, But yeah, Carlin never really. It's not Carlin never, in his comedy said, "Well, I'm so proud to be an American." I don't know if he ever said that, except maybe sarcastically or ironically,
Yes, he just did such a wonderful job there. I thought that was important, and just to add some levity here to the end of the show. I'm going to just sum up a little bit of what we talked about today for everybody, and then we're gonna run out of here tonight. But for those of you who support the Republicans, I'm in this theme of what Carlin just said. Basically, I'm saying the system is not capable of reform as much as people hope for it all the time. And I'm not saying we shouldn't make things a little better. I'm not against people who are trying to get some sort of relief. I'm just saying, realize that this is a club, and they don't want this to happen. They don't want true reform to happen. So you might get a couple crumbs, but you're never really going to get there, I think, using that method. You got to think a little outside the box. The Republicrats have been applying the rhetoric of returning the state to its constitutionally defined limits. But the fact that it is not now in its constitutional limits illustrates that the state cannot and will not be contained. That's my view, right? The state knows no bounds. It has, of course, the propensity to grow. I think it's a daunting task to attempt to contain it. And I think my point being, there's a better way to go about this. So I'll say, the Republicans nor any other party can reform the state as they claim. I'd argue that's just rhetoric. One of guys I like to read their stuff or have read, Our Enemy, the State, Albert J. Nock. He said the state, both in its genesis and by its primary intention, is purely antisocial. It is not based on the idea of natural rights, but on the idea that the individual has no rights except those that the state may provisionally grant him. It has always made justice costly and difficult to access, and has invariably held itself above justice and common morality whenever it could advantage itself by doing so. That's a quote by Albert J. Nock. And I think that kind of sums up this. I know most people see the show as, hey, we're just bashing the Republicans. But I'm saying it's actually more than that. We just happen to bash the Republicans on this show, this episode. Stay tuned. We'll bash the Democrats because there's plenty to bash. My question is to everyone is this situation acceptable to you? If it's not, or if you have a real question about that, listen to this show. We may be able to provide some context that will lead you into thinking a little differently than what you have been. And then the last thing I wanted to add on this is, George Carlin's comments about we are attempting, about that we weren't ready for peace. That's what we're attempting to do on this show. We're attempting to get people ready for peace. Understand that there is a better way, and the way is through peaceful means. And I don't believe that can be reached while the state violence is instituted and legalized. I think it's a contradiction to have the state there at the same time. And I have the wrong thing here, Brad, for you on going out. But I'll leave that for Brad to let us go for the evening. Before we go, I wanted to thank Nick for being with us. It was great having you with us, and thanks for all the information about Agorafest.
Thank you, and looking forward to seeing you all there this year.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely going to be there. So with that, Brad, you want to take us out?
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for listening to our show. As we always say, to wrap up, please tell your friends. And as Tom always says, we like to say, or as Tom always says, heck, even tell your enemies about the show. Come one, come all. We welcome everybody's thoughts. Please check us out on the Facebook page. We hope that we provoked you to think. Join us next Tuesday night, May 19th at 7 o'clock Central Time for our next live show.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, and we hope that you look forward to our next discussion. And until next time, say good night, Tom.
Good night, and we're leaving you with Mac DeMarco, Goodbye Weekend. See, you guys can't hear this, but this is actually kind of a cool tune. So here we go. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Annoying Peasant Radio Show.